Alright, so got my manual steering box apart here, obviously, cleaned up. And I dry fit the all the ball bearings back in here in the sector gear, I think it's called. So I'm going to take it back apart, put some grease in there, and put it back together. So it can be a little bit intimidating, I guess, but can only go back one way, so the right way. So be careful not to lose any of these. We'll put these races aside. And there's 54 of these ball bearings. So I'll know when I have them all out. I mean, you'll know you won't be able to get the worm gear out. So I'll try to get as many out as I can. And just kind of bring them to the front here so I can pour them out. Alright, it should be all out, otherwise I wouldn't be able to pull the gear out. So like I said, there should be 54. So I'm just gonna make sure I got them all here. Just kind of group these in groups of 10. Should be 10 here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right. So these are all groups of 10. It's like I said, 54 ball bearings. All right. So now I got them all. Not missing any. Keep them together. Now, you gotta make sure you got this going the right way. You don't want to assemble it and realize that you got it the wrong way. So, this would go in the box. like so. And this will only fit one way. If you try to go the other way with it, you'll tell it won't mesh right. So I know the orientation of how the box is behind me. That's how this is going to go. Okay. So you want to kind of just put this in the center, and you don't want this to fall within the races where the ball bearings need to go. So just kind of prop it up a little bit. Okay. And you want to use extreme pressure grease. So I got this Valvoline automotive grease. It's used for multiple things like ball joints and tie rods and all that, but this is also multi-purpose extreme pressure. There's EP2 grease you can use too. I don't know that you really need to go EP2, but this will work fine. And I'll eventually fill the case and all the other parts, grease them all up before I put everything back together. So this will also help keep everything kind of back together. So I'm going to do these, kind of a painful process, I guess, but one at a time. Each little track here. I don't want to get carried away. I want these to fall down in the track. And work their way down inside the race, because we're going to fill this until they can't go, until I can't fit anymore, until they kind of come to the top. And then we'll end up filling these tracks here with bearings, and then that will complete the assembly. Since I have grease on here, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get them to fall down into the track. When I was doing it dry, they would kind of just fall down as I lifted up on the worm gear, but they got a little grease on them, so they're sticking, which is fine. Just gotta take your time. Each time I add one, I'm just going to stuff it down a little bit more. Probably should have greased up the gear a little bit before I start putting these in here, but I'm sure I can just spin it all the way out, add grease, and work it in there. I'm sure that's fine. I'm honestly just doing this to, I had a power steering box, this is for my 67 Nova. CPP power steering box that I bought secondhand, but unfortunately this is a 4-speed car and they don't quite fit with the Z-bar. You could probably fabricate. I don't have, this is an original Nova block, so it has a like an adapter you use for the Z-bar pivot ball, which mounts to the block. You could fabricate that a little bit differently and kind of make it work, and I found that if you put the Z-bar frame bracket in backwards, that it fits better, but it wasn't to the point where I was happy with it, and I don't feel like fabricating anything, so nor do I have really the means or the tools to do that. So I'm going to go with the original box. You can upgrade these with Corvette components. From what I hear, 60 C3 Vet steering gear. It's a better ratio. I think it's 14:1 versus maybe this is 20:1. So it might be 4 turns lock to lock versus 5. So a little bit better, but I'm just going to keep these stock components. Took everything apart, cleaned it up. It's not too bad. I'll put it all back together, put it back in the car, see how I like the manual steering before I go buying upgraded Corvette components, which are kind of hard to come by and not cheap. So anyway, I think I pretty much got this to the point where these tracks are full. See how when I push that, this other side came up. So that's kind of where you want to be. So they're to the very top. Same with this side, which it should be because I did them evenly. So at this point, that's completely full. Now this is where the tricky part comes in. Hopefully the grease makes it a little easier. So I kind of just like put them all in here and then quickly put these tracks in, but the grease should make it easier, I would imagine. So if I do it like this, I'll probably honestly get most of it because of the grease. Just grease these up. Honestly, these are, you know, they can go in any way. They're not probably going in exactly the way they came out, but I'm sure it's fine. They are the same pieces. So with doing that, a little grease. Balls even. Might be a trick to this, but I've never done this before, so I've researched a little bit, looked at stuff online. You know, that's why I know what I know up to this point. We'll call that probably good. Let's see if we have an even amount on this side. Doesn't look like it. Should. more further up here when I had them dry fit. Yep, 4 more, so 2 more on each end. Like I said, hopefully the grease will keep them from wanting to fall out. These boxes, I think, are pretty widely used in a lot of the early GMs, so this process should work for a lot of different manual boxes out there. All right, now grease these up too. You know, everything I'm telling you, I learned from researching, so pretty sure it's accurate in terms of like the grease to use and all that. Okay, so here we go. All right. So with the grease on all these plus inside, that went way better than it did dry. Push this guy in a little bit. Okay, well that one's not completely, there we go. All right, that should be it. I'm gonna trust that is, and I'm just gonna put this retainer on here. Pretty happy with that. Pretty confident that's right. Meaning I got all the balls in there the right way. I'm not going to clamp this down right now. I'm just going to check it out. But this will keep everything in there. Okay. I mean, that feels solid. You don't hear any clinking around, meaning there's no missing bearings. They're all completely filled, and that feels great. So, and it should stop there, like as it did, and there. So that's how you do that. And like I said, what I'll do is I will just, since I didn't do this ahead of time, which is probably fine, I'll just put this on here now. This should all work into the gear once it's, you know, the box is full of grease, but you really should grease this stuff up ahead of time. Just kind of pre-lube it. That way, initially it's not dry. So, pretty much think I got that good. I'll just run that through. And then do this side. Now some of this excess as I spin it through might, you know, come off because the tolerances are so tight. But that's totally fine. That means all the grease is getting in every crevice possible. I don't think you can overdo it. All right. So that's good. That feels great. Very tight. Got all the grease worked in there. All right, I'm calling that good. So just get a bigger screwdriver here. This thing was pretty tight when I first took it apart, so. Sweet. Well, there you go. So I'll take another video of the rest of the assembly, but for right now, I just wanted to go through that process. So hope you learned something.